right, today for our Creative Live discussion on Friday, May 9th, we have Emmanuel Green. And Emmanuel Green, I want to go ahead and let you introduce yourself and talk about your business and your creative journey. But first, let me go ahead and get the first question into that as well. So, tell us a little bit about your creative journey and what inspired you to start your business or organization within New Mexico.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm originally from Demi, New Mexico, so I was born and raised here. I am a foster kid, a former foster kid and adoptee, so that's what kept me here. And I was initially an athlete, so I was running track. I wanted to go to the Olympics. I had big dreams. That was initially what I wanted to do to get out. Injured myself, like most of us do, when you don't get to the next level, and basically for me, people go, "Why did you transition into creative or entertainment industry?" Was well, basically growing up with people who look like me. All I saw was either they were athletes or entertainers, and that's how they got out. So initially, that's why I got into the entertainment industry. I started doing the rapping thing, basically, and being from a small town. I knew that it didn't matter how big I got in Little Demi, New Mexico. It was about getting out of that. And back at that time, demos and stuff were still like that's how you got heard. So I sent my demo out across the country. Ended up getting my first talent deal when I was 17, and I signed my first distribution deal before I graduated high school. So
Mm,
basically, that got me into the music industry, and I stayed in the music industry for about 5 to 6 years, on and off with different deals. And it's just interesting because I did accomplish what I wanted to accomplish, which was getting a record deal at that time. Record deals was still a thing, but it wasn't what I thought. The industry was not what I thought it was going to be. You have this idea of what the industry is, and then once you're actually in the industry, it's a totally
yeah.
different business. And for me, that drew me. It actually drew me away from it because of all the interesting. I just gonna say interesting stuff that
Mm,
goes on in the industry beyond what you think it is. So I took my hiatus and went to college. I got my business degree and basically decided to get back in on the business side of things and intern at Capitol Records, and that's kind of how the whole green shoes thing started. So I'm called the man in the green shoes, and obviously my last name is Green, but I used to use it as a marketing thing. I used to wear a bunch of green. That was my thing. Everyone called me Green. That was my last name. And basically at Capitol Records, what I would do, I had a mentor who told me, hey, if you're going to stand out at this internship outside of doing what you do, like it was an internship of over 40 people. He said, wear a fancy tie, or a crazy watch, and he got this through another person, and that's a whole nother story. But either or,
mm,
I would basically wear my green shoes, and then I would go into all the different executive offices that didn't matter because at Capitol Records, everyone knows the iconic Capitol Record in Hollywood. It's the big circular building with the point needle on the top. There's I worked in the back. There's a building you don't know that exists unless you work there, but that's where all the big
okay.
wigs, and it's only a 3-floor building. So basically, I would go up to the third floor, start walking around, talking to all the executives in my green shoes. I'd greet everybody. That was another thing. I remember everyone's names from the secretary to the janitors to the security guards. And everyone appreciated that. So before long, they start going out. Who's that guy in the green shoes that goes into my office every day greeting me and da 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 da? And I just worked my way around. Last day at work, Capitol Records, coming to work, everybody's dressed in green. So from
Mm,
that point, they called me the man in the green shoes, and I was able to make a statement there. So um,
mm,
that basically got me going, and then I got into commercials shortly thereafter. Just because someone said, "Hey, you got a nice smile. You ever try commercials?" And I was like, "No," and boom, there it was, the commercials. So it was just like a transition. The commercials was easier for me rather than getting really involved in industry commercials, becoming a spokesperson. It was my ultimate goal and still is. Kind of like the flows and the all-state guy. Like this is the
yeah.
type of stuff I want to do. I wasn't trying to do movies and all. This is still what I want to do, and I'm still currently doing that. And then I segued from okay, representing products and being in commercials and stuff to actually doing it on my own. So that's
Mhm.
where my marketing company, Green Vision X, kind of came into play because I figured, okay, using my expertise in the entertainment industry, but now finding products to represent was going to be my next phase. So that's what basically got me into Green Vision X, which I started roughly 5 years ago to bring in different products to represent and bring to market. So I could be my own spokesperson on top of doing commercials. And that's basically kind of the full circle moment for me, going from music to being in the background in the music industry to now doing commercials and marketing. So that's kind of the whole full circle journey for me, now using entertainment and marketing, merging it together and representing products. And that's kind of my what I want to do in the industry, and that's what brings me to where I am now. And being back involved in the creative industry, it's more so just the background of being in the entertainment industry and then using the marketing side as well.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the things. I like the way that you said that. It's also thinking about the creative industries, right? It's intersectional. So it's like those are two. You just named 3 to 4 industries already that you've been a part of that you now are blending within. And I'm like marketing, kind of a general way of saying what your business is, but what you're doing is still film. I mean, your production, videography. You really could swing so many ways, right? In the way that you're doing it. And I think that goes into why now we get to define some things for the for the economic viewpoint with our creative industries division, where you get to see. I know, like I'm hearing you, I'm thinking about the 6 categories that we have, where we have the promotions, we have the marketing media, right? We have the digital element. We also have the performance, right? And it's kind of like all that blends. And some people can say film, but ours is a little different, where we, based off the statute, film is not exactly in our realm because we got a film office, but still in EDD, film is in the same umbrella. So uh definitely seeing that intersectionality. And I think that's one of the things in the study it shows. We got a lot of creative businesses here that really go into so many different knack codes, right? That the government use to try to identify business and business progress. And they don't really combine them in that way. So if you had
Right.
that, you will be able to see what more are we really doing on a bigger level and making those connections in our industries. But
Right,
like,
and I believe they call it like digital media. That's what they would call it. They would, digital media, but that's still film. I mean, film is, people think film movie, but at the same
mhm,
time, digital media is still a form. It's an art form, and it's also what more businesses. That's how content creators started blowing up,
exactly.
influencers, because they started realizing they need content, and content, therefore, is now they're coining it as digital, but that's technically film and media. you know.
Thank you. No, no, right? It's like it's more. It gets more confusing the more terms. It is
Yep.
that is
Yeah.
true. That is true. Because I would say the same thing. Now, the next question is: how has New Mexico creative landscape influenced your work and approach to collaboration in your in journey of your business and in your creative journey here?
Yeah, and I would say best basically for me being from here and then leaving. I left for 13 years. I've been in LA, I've been all over the West Coast, I've been international, coming back. And when you come back, first off, when you leave, you have to, I feel like people who are from here who don't leave here, they have a certain mindset that just doesn't,
Mhm.
no matter if you're creative or not, you haven't seen more than what's around you. So me leaving and coming back was the best thing for me, because now that I'm back after being gone for so long, I see opportunity that I probably wouldn't have seen had I stayed, this whole time, because my mind has been expanded. So now the things that I see here and what could happen in New Mexico, it's just different.
Mhm.
Because what would be kind of like, oh, we're already doing that in a major market like LA or New York or whatever. Here it's not really being done. Like when you look at film, you look at the short film or the independent film, markets in like LA and New York, where that's
Mhm.
basically how people survive. Everyone thinks of the big budget. When you think of a big studio, they shoot maybe 2 or 3 movies a year at best. And those are the big budgets. And for you to get involved in that, I mean, that's, you're going to have to be plugged in. You're going to have to be part of the, part of the whole.
Mhm.
So if you're sitting there waiting for that kind of stuff, you know, shoot for the stars. It's fine, but good luck. But
Yeah.
the independent scene is kind of what keeps things driving. And this is something I'm learning myself in film and
Yeah.
film and TV is what keeps things. And then commercials. Commercials counts for
Mm-hmm.
80% of the market. Most people don't understand that. 80% of the market is commercial. And when you don't have a commercial side of things, like here in New Mexico, I'm seeing there's not a strong independent scene and there's not a strong commercial market. So those are the two things that you need to build up a film and TV market, especially. Yeah, you got like I said, you can blast out so and so's here shooting a movie, so and so's here shooting a movie, and those are great. And you can say, Mexicans got hired, 20,000, but at the end of the day, that's what keeps creatives, when we're talking about creative industry moving. And so in New Mexico, I think that's what that's where the opportunity lies, is the fact that no one, or I'm not saying no one, I would just say that there has to be more of that independent culture that isn't here yet, because just New Mexico doesn't think that way. They're just most people aren't thinking that way here in New Mexico. So I think opportunities that do exist here are going to come from people who've not from here, or people who've left here and come back and figured, how do I make what I've seen in the larger markets here, and how do I get the community to come together and work together, and regardless of what you're doing, whether it's events, whether it's theater, anything creatively in the arts, obviously, it's a big thing here too. But I think that's kind of where we need to kind of come together on that side, and then figure out the collective bargaining power and distribution. Because the biggest thing for artists and creatives is getting their art or getting their creativity out, content distribution. And yes, you got your TikToks, you got your Instagram, but that's short form media, right? And that can only go so far. And I believe like millennials and people on the older side, like, yeah, we watch that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's an influencer market is one piece of a bigger market, which is the creative economy. And the creative economy that could exist in New Mexico, which I believe is kind of what your division is also trying to build out. It's like we said, has so many different facets to it. So in New Mexico, I believe, getting together. I mean, it's great to shoot a film or a short
Mm-hmm.
film, but then distribution and looking at the distribution network that's around us. So like currently I'm talking with Kara QE, looking at who are what's around us. Everyone says Netflix, but you also understand Netflix is here for the tax incentives, and there's not a lot of collaboration with the community with Netflix. They're bringing in their crews from LA and their people that they already know, and they're coming here and they're shooting and they're taking advantage of the tax incentives, and they're hiring locals as background and one-liners. But that's not economy. That's not going to do anything for the creative community that's here. So we have to understand, in order to do that, you have to come together. And one thing my mentor taught me, and he's a very successful finance guy in business, and he said, one thing you have to do when you want to make a deal, you have to come together with a network, you have to come together with resources, and then you can make a deal. Problem with creatives is that, we're so creative, but we don't know how to put together a deal. When we come to the table, typically we only come to the table with the idea, nothing else. So, New Mexico, I think there has to be a little bit more of like what's understanding of who's available, what's around us, and then figuring out how can I work with that person to make this happen, and then that person say how can I work with this person to make this happen, and there has to be more of a collaboration and collaborative effort to build out the independent creative scene that does not, to me, doesn't exist from what I've seen in other markets. There's not really a big independent scene here. There's people who are siloed off doing their own thing and doing great things. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is really no like working together on together to fulfill like the creative to build out the creative economy. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm seeing, and and you got to get creative even in the sense of like celebrity musicians. Like when you look at music, there's people out there like celebrity musicians that are coming up with run clubs instead of going to like partying and clubbing. They're doing these run club, these hosts these 5K runs, and at the end of these runs, so they're getting all these people together, they're running, and at the end of it they host a live event. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting, right? Once again, just thinking outside the box, and especially for musicians who basically you don't make money off of music anymore. You make money off of touring and live shows. So this is a unique way now to get people involved in with your music, but also to promote a cause, which is health and wellness. So they're doing these 5K run clubs. you do the run, and at the end you get to see a show. Like,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of stuff I believe New Mexico we can come together and start doing more of, and stuff like that. So I believe um, that's kind of what I'm seeing, or what I believe could happen more in New Mexico. It's just more collaborative and more of this outside of the box thinking to get stuff done together as opposed to individual.
I think that's one of the things that is well, that's one of the things that we're trying to do because I think it's what I'm able to see what moving around the state is that these things exist, but it goes
Hmm.
back to one thing you said is like the silos. It is a lot of things that is siloed off, and I do think for us it's not recreating the wheel, it's not redoing anything. It's really just uplifting and elevating those areas that are kind of not really talking to each other and being able to get them to know like through you working together and not thinking that you are working against each other, we can
Right.
build what you are talking about because it's an ecosystem there. It's parts where you could where it falls off, right? And it could really be more cohesive. And that's the charge of our division, but also other divisions that already exist to really highlight those for other creatives. Because I do think one thing, and I'm not from here, but I do think one thing is it is different being not from here and seeing the ability and the opportunity, right? But one thing I do believe is true, not being from here, but also I moved around. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri myself, so it's like my family and people who stayed in Kansas City, they see it a little differently than what I would see it when I go back there. I lived in Dallas. It's there. I see Dallas differently, and I
Yep.
even
Lived in Dallas.
thinking
Hmm.
back when what you were talking about, it's like you can be in those major cities where people talk about all these big places, and it's like, nah, I didn't go there. I didn't go to like the Arlington Stadium when they built it. I didn't. I barely went to Six Flags. Like it was not a, it was. You just realize you don't do the things that people are coming there for. You just live, and it takes you getting out to be like, oh, I didn't know that was that important,
Hmm.
or otherwise. And I think being not being from here, yeah, I can see the opportunity. I keep on saying that every time I talk to people, but it is a difference in how people look at New Mexico not being able to see the value of it. Like the land and entrapment type of approach to it is I think negative and people kind of don't like coming back, but it's like it's the place where you can thrive in creating opportunity. It's not that opportunity gonna be here all the time. It's that you can create it each and every time, and that's the beauty of being here is but it takes really people to think about it takes a village, right? Like I love that proverb because you're not going to move alone being able to build out a whole organization, right? And that's when you're starting a business, that's what you should be having in mind, but also you got to have community. And
Right. And that, yeah,
that's
definitely
what
that
it
makes a
sounds like
lot.
you were talking about, like that
Yeah.
community
Mhm.
being able to build out in that independent scene and more of building out that independent scene is like that's where we can thrive because you'll know where you can go staying within and build up those skills so we can have more people who can possibly if they want to be on a Netflix set, but it's building up the skill and building up the opportunity through our people to do it right.
Well, and that's one thing I was, because I don't know if you heard the proverb, like if you want to go fast, do it alone, but if you want to go far, do it with other people, right? And that's the one thing. Yes, you can rise fast, do it on your own. There's nothing wrong with that if you want to be independent and just be, but I believe, if you want to go far, you want it to sustain itself, you have to collaborate and work with other people. And that's where, like I said, even with the Netflix concept, the collective bargaining power and distribution. Why is it Netflix if they really want to be part of the community, opening up a way for creatives to get involved, get their work on Netflix? I mean, they're
Yeah,
sitting here in our backyard, and so that's why I'm saying it's like yes,
yeah,
we
I
we
like that.
throw them out when we say Netflix this and that, but this is also what I'm not seeing. Coming back here is like okay, I came back, everyone was telling me Netflix is here, Universal is here, but once again, they're hubs, but they're not really creating any opportunity for the local creative community. Like if you're in LA or some of these other places that that kind of have that kind of hub space for you.
Uh,
And that's kind of what I'm talking about and what I'm seeing that doesn't exist. And I've only been back a year and a half, give or take. And that's where I was just like, where, that's what's lacking for all the stuff that's here, the
yeah.
universals and all the big names. I'm like, what are these guys doing? And they're not going to do for you. Like, so you have to understand, you have to create it yourself. We have to come together as a creative community and bring it together ourselves, which is why I started working on different programs like the Black Creators
Hmm.
Program and different things like that because this is stuff that why I left. This stuff didn't exist when I left here. There was nothing here, like I couldn't get involved in that kind of stuff. So I had to leave to get involved in the things I wanted to get involved with and then come back with all this knowledge of
Okay.
understanding of what I've been involved with. And then the mentors and people that I met along the way who are massively successful in their own right in their own industries taught me, a business mindset that college didn't teach me. College
Mhm.
teaches you to go work for somebody, but
Exactly.
entrepreneurship and people talk about it's a hot topic, trendy topic. I'm an entrepreneur, but most people aren't willing to give up and do the things necessary to become successful in business, which is a whole nother concept. You can be creative, but you got to also have the business sense if you want to thrive in the business community. And if you don't have that, you got to partner, collaborate with somebody who has
Thank
that,
you.
and not be afraid of that because the struggling artist. I didn't want to live that lifestyle at all. It's just, and I know it's like a rite of passage for us. People sleeping
Mhm.
in their cars for 2 years and I'm not gonna like you got to figure out like that kind of balance of how hard do you really want to struggle, and then 10 years of that or whatever 15 years of that, you know life is hard if you're that's how you want to live and you want to go off the one-off story of the guy who went to LA, lived in his car for 2 years, caught his break, and now he's the biggest star in the world. Those are far and in between, and LA is no longer that place. Like, everything is filming outside of LA now. Everything is
Yeah.
going overseas, everything. So the whole dream and the facade of Hollywood, and I lived it. I've lived it 5 years. I've been like I was California, NorCal, and SoCal. I've lived all over, so I can
Hmm.
speak to this. Hollywood dream is just that. And not to say like you can't go into the mall and be scouted and all that, but that's where the sharks are. That's where you're going to be very taken advantage of if they think that you still think that way.
Hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but just know you're in for a very hard, long road if you still think like that's how it works, because it doesn't.
No, I'm with you on that. So now, what advice would you give to creators who want to collaborate but don't know where to start?
Well, first, once again, like I said, the creative economy, right? Like what you guys are building out and thinking beyond yourself, because that's the one thing that's going to get you to go further is if you're working on something like if you want to be an influencer, like once again, some people
Hmm.
just want to be famous and there's nothing wrong with it. If you want to be famous, you still have to think about what value do you bring to anybody that for you to generate income, for you to generate revenue. If you're looking at the Kim Kardashians and all this other stuff, and that's what you want to be, well, you got to think about how do they make billions of dollars? How did they build that brand up so much that that's and people are stuck watching them just living their lives on keeping up with the Kardashians. Like that's not just something that just happened. There was
Hmm.
strategy behind it. So I believe thinking of yourself, regardless of what you're trying to accomplish, you have to think about the business side of and the marketing, which is once again, how do you get yourself out there? And if you want to build yourself, then you're talking about personal branding. Now, if you want to build a story, you want to sell a movie, you want to write a script, how do you go about from pitching to raising the money to shooting the trailer to doing all this stuff? So
Hmm.
for someone who wants to get started, and that's something I had to learn too, going and navigating the industry. Because once you see these contracts are, contracts. They're not
Yeah.
like creative wording, it's legal words. And it's
Yes.
all this. And if you don't understand this stuff, no matter how creative you are, you're going to get exploited. You're going to get taken advantage of because they know you don't understand. So if you don't have an entertainment lawyer, you don't have, so you have to really think how serious do you want to take yourself? If you just want to be a creative and you want to make some cool stuff and you want to put it out there and get some views, have at it. I mean, anybody with a phone can be a director nowadays. It doesn't matter. So if you want to do that, but if you really want to take yourself seriously in this industry, you have to get a foundation, and that's one thing I learned. I call it building on sand. If you're building on sand, the problem with building on sand is all it takes is some water, strong wind, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was building on for many years until I met my mentor. I was building on sand. I was going for that fast money. I was going for that one, that one off. And finally, he said, if you can build on sand, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people build on sand, and you can build a nice little castle for yourself. But all it takes is a little wrong move, and it's all gone. And you see that
Mm-hmm.
all the time in the entertainment industry. You see a lot of
Yep.
creatives, who just, it takes one little, and boom, they're done. But people who build a foundation, takes a little longer, but a solid foundation for yourself. You have something to build off of, then it doesn't matter. One wrong move just means you pivot. And that's another thing, learning how to not always stay so one straight line focused like me. I went from music to
Mm-hmm.
commercials, marketing, to spokesperson, right? It's still getting you to this. It's like a GPS. If you take a wrong turn, it's still going to navigate you and get you to where you're going. It's just a different path. So I believe understanding that, it's not just a straight shot in this industry. Nothing's clear and cut and dry. We should know that. It's
Yeah.
creative. Nothing's gonna happen the way you think it's gonna happen. it's
Yeah.
it's always gonna happen in a different way, in a different form. But if you're not open enough to understand that that's happening, but just in a different way, then you're gonna miss the opportunity. And there's nothing wrong with just being hard headed and just going through it. But I just believe, my advice to anybody else would be to understand you have to pivot in this industry to survive. Just like the music industry, when iTunes came around, it destroyed music sales. I mean, as
Mm-hmm.
far as for the artist, an artist cannot thrive off of a single and 9.99 album anymore. It doesn't work. Like, nobody's buying 9.99 albums. They're streaming your stuff for 0.0001%. So at the end of the day, that's not working. And now with the music industry or the TV film industry, what's happening with streaming, it's doing the same thing. Now, movies, you can't spend $300 million and get people to go to the theater anymore and make your money
Mm-hmm.
back. It's just, so at the end of the day, now you have to think a little more nimble, and a little more independently, about how you want to get things done. So that's really my advice, is building out your foundation, and whatever that means to you, because everyone's in a different space, in a different, area. But I'm just saying, creatively, foundation is where we need to have foundation.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing that you hit on is really thinking about where that foundation is going to be at, right? Because like it's a difference. Certain artists might just want to just be the artist, and that's fine. But other people may want to move, and you might want to make money. You might want to live off of your creations, and I think it's a hard thing with some creatives. I think overall, especially in my position, I've been learning is like certain people. Um, it's hard for them to pivot to understand like I was creating for fun and for myself and for this and that, and that's fine. We don't want you to, don't get rid of that. Don't get rid of your personal loving, creativity. But if you do want to make money off creativity, if that's easy for you, if that's what you want to do, then it is to think about what structures am I going into? Can I build a business around this? And knowing that you need to build a business to make your own money, right? Or nonprofit, but it got to be some organizational structure to understand where you're going for that foundation. And I think being able to pivot, right? The adversity is really a good answer to a lot of things in business. That's one thing I learned. Uh, but also when you do the history of business, like Taco Bell used to sell hot dogs. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I
Like
didn't. Wow.
yeah, the history of Taco Bell. They used to sell hot dogs. Now they sell tacos, right? And
Wow.
everything else in between. That is that's a business pivoting, right? I mean, cornflakes used to be medicine, not cereal.
Yeah. Yep. I knew that. Yeah.
So it's like if you don't, sad thing about the Teflon, that's why we got to worry about the pots and pans, right? That was originally using they found how to use it with after the waste of the
Hmm.
nuclear waste and found a way to make it, put it on tanks, and then bam, you found it on your food products because the military still got to sell it. So
Yep.
it's like companies always have to pivot, and you got to be able to pivot, but you also got to be conscious. That's I always say. Businesses always have the community in mind, conscious of what you're pivoting to. Because, like an example of Teflon, that's poison.
Yeah.
Um, but
Great.
But yes, the a lot of things that you said right there is really thinking like where you want to go, right? If you want to be able to work for people doing your creativity, that's one thing. You got the skill, you can do it. But if you want to work for yourself, if you want to build something for yourself or the people around you, build a collective, you got other creative friends, you got other creatives around you, and you just lacking that space. Think about that community and build for it. And not build it, they'll come, build with them and they gonna already be there. It's one of the things I always like to say, because it's not about because then you can work really, you really working together. Right.
Right.
They always
No,
say
and
Rome
that
wasn't
makes a
built
lot
in
of
a
sense.
day.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, but I always love I love this on sand analogy, especially because again, I was an African studies major. So the Egypt is a good example where you think they go through generations talking about what the sand has done to uh different kingdoms in that same
Hmm.
knowing the Giza Plateau has a couple of pyramids underneath it based off of how much the sand has eaten up
Hmm.
in that case. And so it's like, yeah, if you build on sand, you definitely can sink.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And like I said, this is stuff I've learned off of trial error and just understanding of, because everyone goes, I want to make money or I want to do this, I want to do that. There's the I want, but you don't get what you want, you get what you are. And if you don't understand what you are and how to get it, then wanting and dreaming and wishing is great. You can wish on a star all you want, but it's not going to happen. That's the reality of of situations in general, but just and even if you're like, well, I like shooting film, I like shooting media, and I want to go work for a company as a digital media person. Okay, great. You can do that too. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but you also have to understand your skill set and understand how do you bring value to an organization. And now, where everybody with a phone, like I said, can be a director or creative,
Hmm.
then now you're competing with all those. So now it's like, okay, how do I compete with someone with a phone? But at the end of the day, if you have the skill sets that someone isn't going to take the time to do, then now you have value because it's not, oh, yeah, I can shoot with a phone. But look, I mean, because I've seen some of these influencers with just a phone shooting these crazy videos that you're like, how did they do that with an iPhone, right? That's what I'm
Hmm.
saying. Though that's more than just picking up a phone. That's
Yeah.
understanding angles. That's so once again, that's just understanding what you're trying to accomplish and how to be really good at that. And that's one thing I believe we're losing is the specialization because nowadays everyone talks about, oh, you got to be a jack of all trades, you got to do this, you got to do that. But what happened to like the people who make the most money specialize in one thing and then they hire other people who specialize in something else that they're not good at. You don't have to be the guy who does everything. And that's it's creatives we feel like, oh, I got to do it all. You don't have to do it all. If you are good at one thing, good, and then you partner with somebody who's good at something you're not. That's one thing as creatives and in business that you people don't understand. When a business puts out open positions for this and this and that, they're hiring people who are good at that one thing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's so you got to think of it. It's the same concept. If you're good at film but you're not good at music, and you want so you get a musician, if vice versa, and just marketing and how do I so partnering with other people who are good at things that you're not good at. That's
Yeah.
how we have to build, and that's how you build a creative community.
I agree because I think we through public, right, through the public we glorified so many jack of our trades, and we don't even talk about like what's the value that they gained from that. I mean, I think if you ask the jack of all trades themselves, they'll say they was cut or slighted in some way. So I do think there it is I have to constantly even check that, right? And I think a lot of people always have to check that, especially being a creative in this day and
Yep.
age, where we got a lot of things to influence us, and then going into that because I think you talked about it, you hit on a lot when it comes down to technology and social media. So I want to ask the question of what role do you see technology, like social media, like AI, like so virtual events? We're on Zoom right now. How do you see that playing in fostering collaboration in the creative community, but also what do you see it in affecting the creative community in this day and age?
Well, for me, especially being in the marketing space too, experiential marketing is one thing that's coming back post COVID. Experiential marketing is where you create an experience around a product, right? And what and that's what theme parks do. Theme parks are it's a whole big experiential marketing concept. And now you're so connected to that experience, you associate whatever experience you had with the brand. Disneyland does a great job of that, right? The
Mm-hmm.
nostalgia of whatever it was that you saw as a kid, and you go to Disneyland, and now you have that experience, and that's just making you, bringing those emotions back to you, like you were a kid, but now you're at a park and you're experiencing it all over again. And I believe with social media and AI, with all this technology now, like we're so connected that we're disconnected. And I believe it comes down to the one thing of humanity is connection. We still thrive, and we still, just like with post COVID, what did everyone want to do? We wanted to get out, we wanted to talk to people, so we started doing the virtual.
Mm-hmm.
That's all this is just a form of connection, right? And now that we can connect again, we've stopped doing that. People have gotten so used now to the Zooms and everything. Now when you go, "Hey, you want to meet in person?" Oh no, let's just do a video call because it's convenient. There's nothing wrong with convenient. But I believe with social media and the virtual events, what we have to recreate is the experience again, the experience of what it was like to go out. And that's the hard part about virtuals, right? It's hard to get the connection because I could be doing whatever, and I'm here, and so I have to imagine being there. So it's a little
Yeah.
more difficult, obviously. But with all the technology and social media, all this is doing, like when you watch an influencer, you feel a connection to the influencer. And we every like in marketing, everything thrives off of moments. People don't understand, like when you're in a moment. So all we're trying to do is catch you in a certain moment. When you're on Instagram, you're
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily looking to buy something, you're just kind of scrolling. So all a brand has to do is understand what moment and I'm trying to portray, and what moment am I trying to catch people in to be interested in my content. So it's the same concept with anything you're trying to plan. Just like with like I talked about the musicians doing the 5K runs, hosting their events at the end. Now the experience, especially a physical experience, when you're running and you got you're tired, you're getting up, and then endorphins and all that's ruined, and then at the end, bam, you got this huge concert. That is a whole experience that you're not going to forget. And now
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be way more connected to that brand, that person, that musician, because they put you in a state. And that's the one thing that social media and all this other stuff and experiential marketing does. It puts you in a state of mind. So I
Yeah.
believe we got to get more creative in that kind of sense, in the sense of experiential marketing, whether it's online or in person or a hybrid, right?
Mm-hmm.
What experience are we creating for people to take away? What is something you want people to take away from an experience you had, as opposed to just like, this is what I do, watch my movie, whatever. You got to make people feel some type of way to care, and not everybody is going to care. That's another thing we have to understand. Not everybody's going to care about what you do, and you also understand that nobody cares about what you do until you make them care. So as
Right.
creatives, we're like, I want the world to, watch me, and just understand the world doesn't care. Everyone has their own problems, their own issues. We had that conversation. So you have to catch them in the moment of like, huh, what was that? Right? And I know there's a lot of people out there doing stuff to get clicks and views. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah, they're good
Oh
at
yeah.
what they do, but I'm talking about an experience. The Disneylands, the Universals, these brands that are 100+ years. What are they continuing to do that keeps us at 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, watching their stuff, getting our kids to watch their stuff, still going to Disneyland, and you still have that time that you feel you're a kid again. They
Exactly.
really good at experiential marketing, is putting you in a state, in a moment. You may be 50 years old, but I'm going to take you back to the moment when you were 10, when you were 11, and I'm going to put you in that space, and you're going to feel that. And that's what experiential marketing is. So social media, all this other stuff, we have to get good at connecting again, as
Yeah.
opposed to being so connected that we're disconnected. And we're trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out with products I'm representing, creating these experiential marketing concepts. But
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing for sure, that we're putting into the products that we're representing. And one of the things we're bringing back, because one of the products we represent is a T-shirt, and it's a patented T-shirt that has a slit in the middle. It's called Free
Mm-hmm.
T, and it's the first patent in over 100 years on the T-shirt. And what we did, these guys didn't have anything going on, so what we decided to do was bring it back to when you used to be able to put patches on things, and you
Yeah.
created your own little. And because this thing is literally the only, like, no one's gonna have this shirt. So now you got unique patches that you can buy from whatever you iron on. You create your own free tee, and now when you come out, you're like, yeah, this is my free tee. Express yourself. It's free to be me. No one's gonna have that shirt. Everyone wants to feel like they're this is mine. So that's something we did, and boom, we started getting sales. We started getting connected. We did a thing with the city of Albuquerque last year with
Mm.
Juneteenth. We distributed over 170 plus shirts for a Juneteenth event at Open Space. We had the Juneteenth patches. And it was a hit. People loved it. And I was going out a couple of days later, and I still saw people wearing them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's once again, it's an experience. We got people to connect. It's just a shirt with a slit in it at the end of the day. But when you get people to connect to it in some way, like bringing back even older people in their 50s and 60s, like, oh, I remember being able to put on the patch and da 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 da. We got those people to reconnect to something they used to do, and now and the shirt isn't made for them, but they participated because once again, it's that experience. So I would say for sure, experiential marketing, understanding how do you get people to relate and experience the moment and time that you want them to go back to.
I agree with that. I think it's like I'm the whole time you were saying it, I'm thinking it's like a cyborg, right? You got the digital side, you know they got to be real, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also knowing we did not lose our humanity in the process, right? We
No.
went to COVID. Some things did lose. We did lose some good experience. I hate to say it like that, but that's the truth. Um, but now it is the time where we can recreate those, but also is using the digital element to bring people
Mm-hmm.
to that experience, right?
Yep.
But it is a real thing because I think when I think because I'm a marketing, I was in thinking more of so I'm more on the social media content creation, but seeing the blend, right? It's everybody's diversifying their portfolios. Not your
Mm-hmm.
your your average content creator is invested somewhere else. Mr. Beast is a good example.
Oh
Candy
yeah.
investments on TV show, invest like pretty much making his own TV show through the YouTube, right? And that's a
Mm-hmm.
free platform, but also making his own elements because if YouTube shut down, what's gonna happen? And you got to think
Mm-hmm.
about that with social media, but also I think RCDC as a group, a collective of young
Mm-hmm.
black content creators, but they made our DreamCon. And DreamCon is one of the biggest
Yep.
conventions that goes into that realm of gaming, YouTube, Comic Con, and all that in Texas. And it moved from Arlington Stadium to Austin. I believe it's going to be in Houston next year. But they're bringing wealth to these cities. They're partnering with the
Mm-hmm.
cities. The cities are no understanding, and it's like that experience is what's driving to me go watch the YouTube, which is a funnel of money for them, or to go buy a product, and that's another funnel of money, or just to pay the ticket, and that's funnel of money. But it's just thinking you diversify things and create a community around it, right? Because a community can't be created without an experience. You
Yep.
can make it post as many videos as you want, and I might just watch it, and that's it. But to build a community around yourself is really what the goal should always be because the experience that you're going to give them is what they're always going to pay for, right? Nostalgia is what I always think because what you just said, they got us in the whenever Disney was made, with
Mm-hmm.
the first Disney park, and that was the point. Like, you let me get you this experience. You love Cinderella, you love these stories, regurgitate them, but we're gonna keep hitting you with a new variation of something that you like. And
Mm-hmm.
now you're stuck. Like everybody loves Star Wars. I'm still trying to go to Disney to make my lightsaber. I'm still so it is a big that's just the point. So smaller businesses thinking about that, right? Catering events, building events in your space if you have that. Like uh one of the things that I always loved is the party, the Nerf party,
Oh, yep.
right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you can now you get a big old Nerf battle with your friends and family and stuff like that, and you don't have to worry about they clean it up in your house. So, but it's just so many opportunities that you can create that really get people to want to keep investing in you. So,
And
in
that's what we need to think about as creatives. That little stuff like that. A Nerf party. I haven't seen one of those out here, but I don't know how big the community here is here at Nerf. But I'm just saying, once again, that kind of stuff coming together and creating those type of things, man. Like that's You got a big college community here. Got a young kids
Yes.
looking for stuff to do. That's what we got to do as creatives. We have to really start doing stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, think about the community. And I mean, now I say that I'm saying the biggest Nerf battle that ever happened is actually happened in Texas. It's a dude that not know. I follow him on Facebook in Rockwall, but he set the Guinness Book of World Record is doing it in the Arlington Stadium, and he's been moving around. He went to Atlanta,
Oh
so one of
wow.
the thoughts is if somebody's open for it.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
you did bring up something about like what you want people to kind of think about when they're experiencing something, what you want them to walk away with. So, what is one thing you would want fellow creatives to walk away with to after today's conversation?
Well, I mean, hopefully, we got the point across to where it's, you have to don't wait for somebody else to give you the okay. First off, just go do it. And I don't know if you've heard the saying that just basically, people who get off in this world, they they look at the circumstances that they want, and if they can't find them, they make them. And
Mm,
so you really like Star Wars. George Lucas, like Hollywood did not want Star Wars. They did not want,
hmm
they didn't even believe in Star Wars. But George Lucas believed in it so much. He got them to get going. I don't know the whole story. I don't want to butcher it, but just look at how a lot of
hmm
these things that are now big, massive properties got started. Disneyland, everyone knows Walt Disney. He got fired for lack of imagination. No one believed in. So you got to
hmm
understand once again, people don't care about your vision. People don't. They don't even understand your vision. You have to make them care. You have to make them understand. Yeah, and that's doesn't matter what you're doing. I want to save the world. I want to. You got to understand. People do not care until you make them care. You have to get them to stop. So you have to be adamant and going after. And when someone says that's not gonna work, if that stops you, then it never was gonna be something that what you're gonna do anyway. Because you're gonna get a lot of that. People aren't gonna understand it until they understand it. Now, Star Wars, they got whole conventions on this thing. you know, um, and so that's the biggest thing I believe people need to understand is you have to go do it. You gotta if you want, oh, I wanna do movies, but pick up your phone and go start filming. Like go get a camera, start making your shorts. Nothing is gonna start until you start. So that's the biggest thing I
Yeah,
feel I want people to take away from this conversation because we can have all this and that. We should do this. We should do that. But action is the biggest thing. So we're working on distribution channels with KRQE and working on getting to Nexstar Media, which owns KRQE, which is one of the biggest conglomerates in the world of TV stations and all. And we're not even talking broadcast. We're talking digital. So once
hmm
again, we're having these conversations with these larger entities here in New Mexico that people like no one has ever gone to Cherokee. They're like, yeah, this first time, people are coming to us, talking to us about working together in a creative way.
mm
Because you just think, well, Cherokee just does TV, they broadcast, no one cares. No, they have a digital element, and they got about 4 million people a month that go onto their platform. So as a
hmm
creative, imagine creating for that platform and now your content gets seen for the region. And I'm just and once again,
Yeah,
this is just
out the
stuff
box.
that I don't talk about. I mean, when I talk about it, means I'm doing it. So I talk about
hmm
this because I'm doing it. I'm not, and once I'm a doer, not a talker. So at the end of the day, that's what I want people to take away from the conversation is whatever you're trying to do, you got to go do it and you got to start it because it's not going to come to you. And then as you start going, being resourceful, the stuff is going to start falling in place and you're going to go, I don't know how that happened, but I met so and so who knew this person, who knew that person, and that's how things going. And when you look at any industry, and I just use movies because it's easy. It's an easy kind of transition. When you see
hmm
like Seth Rogen and these guys, and you see movies, or even Adam Sandler, and you see like he has a set crew that he works every single movie. You see the same people in different roles, and you go, "Wow, that's what that is." These guys have they started doing their movies, and they started small, and they started working with each other, and now boom, 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 they're putting each other in each other's movies.
hmm
Hey, come work at my movie. It's not doesn't have to be your show all the time. You can go and
Yeah.
help somebody else and contribute to somebody else. So that's the biggest thing, and instead of, going to put up a GoFundMe and praying and hoping that everything is, people would just donate money to your cause. I mean, I see it happen all the time because even go, they go, well, that GoFundMe campaign was successful. But when you talk to the people who had a successful GoFundMe campaign, they had marketing, they had a budget, they knew
Yes.
how to, or even if they didn't have a budget, they had a PR campaign to get people to know about it. Something
Hmm.
had to happen that they're not telling you, that they're giving you the, the success story, the front end, but there's always something that you're not thinking of. And so if you think you can just can post, make a video, post a GoFundMe and say fund my whatever, and it's going to happen, good luck. So
Yeah.
go do it, make it work, and be successful, and learn how to pivot. Pivot, 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 because we have to pivot your way to success. And anything, I believe, pivot, pivot, pivot. I do that in business all the time. Currently doing that, transitioning, marketing, doing deliveries, doing it's like you got to pivot, pivot, pivot all the way to where you until you get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing I want people to take away from our conversation today.
I agree with that. And I think the main thing I like is just knowing you gotta put it together.
Yep.
It's no way that, like you said a lot of things, and honestly, you said a lot of things that made me be like, is Disney just picking all the things that nobody believed in the beginning? If you think about it, because if that's the case with Disney, it was the case with Star Wars, it was the case with Stan Lee and Marvel. I mean, that's a
Yep.
whole universe that we go and delve into now that they're all in the same, now they're under the same umbrella. So it's kind of crazy when you think about it, but it's just the truth. Most things are not going to be, you're going to have to fight for that. It reminds me of Master P when he said
Oh.
about it, right? If nobody knows about it, go look it up on YouTube. You can hear it. And he was just talking about, he went trying to push it at the radio station. The dude was like, I don't know, I don't know about that. Bring me another one next week. And he was like, all right, I got something for you. He said, what you got? About it, keep going, right? And annoyed. I mean, if you feel like he believed in that product, he knew about it was going to be that song, and it finally hit the radio, and then boom, it went, and it made the empire that he was able to build and put him to where he's at today. And I think that's the whole thing. People got to be passionate about their product and passionate about their services and passionate about themselves and wanting to get the things done, but knowing you got to get it done first. And through that proof of concept, people will invest. And then not just
Yeah.
money, time, effort, and wanting to be there as well. They see the value
Yeah.
from it.
That's why, because that's the number one thing people say why I didn't get started. I didn't have the money, I didn't have the resource. Well, that's the thing, like if you can get people to believe in what you're doing, then they'll donate their time and invest and be invested in your product and your service or whatever you're trying to do. And that's one thing, creatives and anybody in general, if you want to get something done, you have to get really good at either getting people to give you money. That's a good thing. But
Mhm.
two, if you're not, if no one around you has money, then you have to get good at getting people to invest their resource, which is their time, their energy, their skill set into your project, to get it going. And those are the two things I believe creatives especially have to have. If you can't raise money, then you got to raise people,
Yeah.
because if you raise money, you can pay people and people will do stuff for money. But if you don't have the money, then you have to raise people. You got to get them to be like, I want to be a part of this, and because I'm helping you with this, it's going to help me with this. And you have to bring value to people, no matter what it is. If it's just about you, um, good luck. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. If people want to just work with you because they like you and that's it, you go for it. But I just feel like at the same time, you have to bring value to something else someone else is doing and be a part of what they're doing. It can't just be about you. And if it's just about you, you're gonna have a really tough time raising people up. You're gonna have to raise a lot of money to get people to work with it.
I like that. I like it. It's understanding. Yeah, you got to be out yourself to be able to move. That's the collaboration and creativity, right?
Yes.
So, do you
Mhm.
have any upcoming projects or opportunities or events that you would like to share with us that we can support? And also, could you give us any way that if a creative business is looking for marketing services, looking to be able to contact you for your services, what are your contacts to be able to do that as well?
Okay, well, first off, starting with the contact, I work on marketing projects per se, not necessarily like, oh, I want a Facebook social media post. That's fine. You can find people to do that. I take on projects like
Mhm.
the free tea. That's a whole project with a patent and everything, and we're launching that to the market. We've been in it 2 years deep now, getting large companies to consider, and so. when it comes to stuff like that, I'm looking at a project based, and I'm looking at something that's bigger than just like I need a couple social media posts. That's not the marketing I do. I'm not really. I'm looking at project based. So if you have
Yeah.
something that's a bigger project and you're like, I want to get this going, and then definitely reach out. 'Cause that's what we do. And definitely if it's a product, for sure, launch, go to market strategies, stuff like that. Info at greenvisionx.com, info at greenvisionx.com. Reaching out to me that way is definitely the best way. And just share the details and we'll go from there. Upcoming projects, for sure, we have more free tea events coming up, not necessarily in New Mexico, but we're doing a Lake Havasu event in Arizona with the free tea. And we're once again creating a community around that t-shirt. Lake Havasu loves it. They want to be a part of it. So we're going out there to create an event and make it a whole thing. And hopefully we become the official shirt of Lake Havasu. So once again, creating a community around a product as opposed to I got a product, come buy it.
Hmm.
But upcoming project, have animation project that we've been working on for the past 2 years called Foster Story. Since I'm a former foster kid myself, this is a universe built around the foster care system, and we're doing it in a creative way. So kind of like X-Men in a way, but not necessarily X-Men. We're not talking about superheroes and supervillains. It's more like anti-heroes, anti-villains. And I'm looking for animators locally, people who who know how to animate stuff like that. So if you know any animators or people who are interested in animation, feel free to reach out to because that's the biggest thing. We also want to create within the New Mexico creative economy. And so when I'm able to do that, I would love to hire New Mexico animators to help create this show. And it's a series. So these are some of the projects I've been working on, and then upcoming with Route 66. Atomic 66. They're working on a big event, which last year went really well. I know the creative director, and yeah, now I'm going to be on a panel this year, speaking towards the creative economy and the creative hub and different things like that. So just Space Fiesta, be on the lookout for that with Atomic Six, and just know that there's opportunities coming, even in the spaces like I said, like space. Like if you're a creative and getting into space, then this is and there's a lot of money around this stuff. So at
Yes.
the same time, if you're like, I don't have money to do this, well, take your creative to a space that has money, and not, no pun intended, but take your creative to space, take your creativity to space. um and find a way to lock in. Like I said, we have to once again pivot, find your way into these opportunities. One great way, go to Space Fiesta, happens next month. Definitely check it out and just find your way in. I mean, that's what I'll be there speaking on a panel, or hosting and curating a panel, talk about stuff like that. So definitely, and there'll be more information. They'll be pumping out a bunch of stuff. I'm sure they had over like 700-800 people last year, so they're trying to double that this year. So it'd be cool. But
Yeah.
just know, so those are my upcoming opportunities and way to contact me. And yeah, appreciate you letting me come on and talk to you a little bit about creativity.
Yeah, no problem. No, thank you for being able to sign up and participating in our live creative live discussions and really giving us your viewpoint, some of your experience, and really what your future is holding. Because I mean, I think and really identifying that. I think I like the way that you really broke down a lot of forms of marketing to get people out of we put a blanket on digital marketing, we put a blanket on marketing, but we don't think about engagement is marketing, PR, the copyright. We got just a lot of elements to marketing that is not just in social media. So I really love that you highlighted that. And now we do have Elise Gill, who's in our audience for today. And I just wanted to see if she had any questions or anything to add.
She just
Okay. No problem, Elise. Thank you for participating and being in the audience today. So with that, we are good to go. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for coming through and being able to do our creative live discussion again. and know that we will be back again next Friday for another discussion. Manuel, if you would like to participate, you have the links, and I will send you the other link for the 1 p.m. if you want that as well. Uh, and we are still gonna be ongoing up until June 15th. So look forward to seeing everyone at our next live discussion.